ReAnn and the Wind. Not a fairy tale, a remembering. Once there was a girl who felt things before they were said. She didn't always have the right words, but she had the right sense. She could feel when someone was hurting, even if they smiled. She could hear the truth hiding beneath a quiet room. And sometimes that truth rose up in her like fire, and she couldn't keep it down no matter how hard she tried. The grown-ups around her didn't understand. They told her she was imagining things. They said she was too much. They called her sick. But she wasn't sick. She was sensitive, and sacred things are always sensitive. So while others kept playing the part they were given, ReAnn started listening to the wind. Not with her ears, but with her spirit. She grew up quiet on the outside, but burning on the inside. She wanted to be loved, yes, but not just love for being agreeable. She wanted to be seen, really seen. The kind of seeing that says, I believe you, even the parts of you no one else dares to hold. That's how her life went for a long time. She wasn't famous, she wasn't rich, but she became honest, strong, and awake. And one day, something even more beautiful than answers arrived. She became a mother. She became a mother not because she had mastered life, but because she had something to give, something deeper than rules or routines. She gave her children the kind of love she'd never been given herself, the kind that listened, the kind that noticed, the kind that didn't ask them to shrink. She didn't always get it right. Some days were loud, some days were long, but when she looked into her eyes, she saw something real. She saw home. For the first time in her life, she felt like maybe love could stay. But life isn't always fair with gentle people. And just when she thought her story had finally found its light, something broke. She won't tell you the whole part about how or why. She won't name names, but the wind shifted, and her children were taken from her arms. Not forever, not completely, but enough to leave her aching in places no one could see. They told her it was for the best. They said she was unstable, but deep down ReAnn knew the truth. She wasn't too broken. She was too awake for a world that didn't want to feel. There were days she almost believed them, days when her body felt heavy and her voice felt pointless. And the mirror said, see, they were right. But then the wind would return. In a song, in a verse, in a stranger's kindness, in a moment of stillness when the house was quiet and the pain lifted just long enough for her to breathe. And the wind would say, you still belong to me. She stopped trying to convince anyone. She stopped begging to be heard. She began to walk with Jesus. Not the polite Jesus people paint on walls, but the one who weeps in gardens and turns over tables and whispers, the truth will set you free. She followed him into a deeper kind of motherhood, one where she loved her children without needing them to understand her yet, one where she waited without bitterness, one where she trusted that the same wind that carried her through would someday reach them. Because here's what no one could take from ReAnn. She never stopped loving, she never stopped seeing, and she never stopped telling the truth, even when it cost her everything. Time passed. The world didn't stop. The sun still rose. Birthdays came and went. There were pictures taken without her in them, stories told without her name, and decisions made in rooms she couldn't enter. But ReAnn kept the door open, not the door to the past, but to the future, to a place where love could be re-chosen, not forced. She didn't tell her children who to believe. She didn't try to rewrite the story to make herself the hero. She just waited, well, in love, in truth, in faith. She cleaned her home just in case. She learned new things just in case. She kept walking with God, especially on the days when it felt like no one else was walking with her. And in her heart, she built a garden, one where her children could come back and say, tell me your side of the story. Tell me what it felt like. Tell me why you kept waiting. She would smile, she would breathe, and she would say, because I never stopped being your mother, because truth doesn't expire, because I wanted you to find me not in bitterness but in peace. The world might still call her strange, some may never understand, but her children were never asked to pick sides, only to see for themselves. And when they do, when the wind rises and the questions begin, and the ache in her heart whispers, what if she was right? They'll know where to go. Not to a courtroom, not to a diary, not even to a memory, but to her. And they will find a woman who stayed soft in a world that tried to harden her, a woman who didn't disappear in the ashes. She rose through them.